their dorm Adler. This victory brings them closer to potentially becoming holy visionaries. However, rumors spread that Mash can't use magic while he fights Cell War. Mash and his friend Finn didn't expect to defeat the Lubis group. There, Mash suggests celebrating their victory, but Finn reminds him that they're not completely successful because someone saw Mash struggling to use magic and might report it to the teachers. Soon after, a student approached Mash, knowing that he couldn't use magic. When asked, Mash, who isn't good at lying, said he could. But the student didn't believe him because rumors were spreading. The student feared this could become a big problem. At that time, Finn told Mash to go, but the student warned Finn he could get in trouble for protecting someone who couldn't use magic. He teased Finn for defending them. Finn got a bit mad, thinking it's none of the student's business. Then the student fell. Turns out it was Lance's doing. The student asked Lance why he did that. Lance said it was because the student bothered him first. Lemon and Dot arrived, noticing Dot with bandages all over her face. After school, Mash and his friends were celebrating their victory against the Lang dormitory. Abel and Razor were also invited. At that time, Abel brought a poker card, coming to celebrate Razor's improvement. Shortly after, Lemon invited Razor to drink tea, but Razor was nervous. Abel explained that Razor gets nervous around women. Lemon also wanted to thank Mash for saving her by feeding him cake, but Mash wasn't paying attention and accidentally dropped it. Mash quickly used his vacuum cleaner power to save the cake from falling. Then, Finn asked Lance what he was doing during their separation on basement. Lance explained that after defeating World Metal from the Lang dormitory, he met some people claiming to be death row inmates. He got into a fight with one of them, but unexpectedly surrendered. Outside, there's an owl carrying a letter for Mash. On the other hand, Razor and Mash are talking when Razor suddenly tells Mash that Innocent Zero is after him. Turns out the people after Mash are looking for a powerful wizard in the academy, and they think Abel got his power from Innocent Zero. Meanwhile, Finn is nervous because Abel asked him to get a chess game from his room. Soon after, Razor comes back and says Abel got his third magic line, but not the usual way cause he got it from Innocent Zero. There, Razor says the original magic users with the third line were scarier, and Abel only used Innocent Zero's power to get more gold coins. He thinks whatever Innocent Zero wants has to do with Mash. Razor tells Mash that Abel just wanted a world where good people could live peacefully, and thanks Mash for stopping him. He believes Mash can make Abel's wish come true. Outside, a student wants to catch Mash, thinking he can't do magic. But then, he's surprised to see Razor, who's friends with Mash, chatting with him. Then, Abel suddenly shows up. Abel asks the student what he's up to, and the student, scared, runs off when an owl delivers a letter to Mash. When they read it, they're shocked. The next day, the magic authorities investigate Mash because he can't use magic, which is a serious offense. Suddenly, an old man asks him who created the world. Mash says it was a good person, but the old man says it was God who created it and magic too. He says people like Mash threaten magic and must be executed. But then, someone else appears and says success is what matters, and tells Mash to believe in himself. This person is Rio Grants, the captain of the Magic Security Forces, also known as the Light Stick. Rio then advised Mash to win over the majority by playing by the rules. He demonstrated by turning a card into a candle and challenged Mash to light it, without touching it, believing that in this world where magic is key, Mash needed to show something even more extraordinary. The old man thought it impossible for someone without magic to do this, but Mash cleverly used his stick to create sparks, eventually lighting the candle. This impressed Rio, who praised Mash. Meanwhile, the holy visionaries arrived at the magic office because they heard about a student who couldn't use magic and planned to punish him. They found Mash there with sand on his feet under attack. The old man asked why they were there, and one of them explained they were sent by the headmaster. Then, Order warned that anyone who couldn't use magic at Easton Academy faced execution. He said the visionaries had decided to execute Mash, but then the old man revealed himself as Innocent Zero and claimed Mash as his own. On the other hand, Safina realized Mash had unusual origins. The old man was actually hosting a magic parasite, a dangerous creature that fed on magic and used humans as hosts. Trying to remove it would trigger a war with the Magic Bureau. Neri warned Rio that removing the parasite was risky because it was a powerful enemy. If it caught Rio, he'd become its next host. Suddenly, Mash grabbed the parasite, put it in his mouth, and tied it with his tongue. There, Neri asked if he really tied it in his mouth, and Mash innocently confirmed it. Soon after, Mash explained to the holy visionaries that since he defeated the magical parasites and saved the old man, he believed his punishment should be over. But Order insisted the rules still applied and they would take him away soon. However, Mash refused to go. Then, Order used his magic to attack Mash, but Rio stopped him, saying they needed his approval to execute Mash. But there, Order didn't care and wanted to follow the rules. Suddenly, Rain's sword magic separated them, and the principal arrived. Order asked why they were called there, but the principal suggested postponing Mash's punishment because it was the first time Innocent Zero had sent a messenger to the academy. He thought it was a hint not to give up on Mash just yet. At that time, Mash noticed the principal approaching and asked Rio about his importance. Rio explained the principal was once a holy visionary who defeated Innocent Zero when he was young. He respected the principal greatly and advised Mash to listen carefully to him. Order recognized Wahlberg as the principal but disagreed with delaying Mash's execution. However, the principal humbly admitted that while Mash couldn't use magic, he had a rare talent for touching people's hearts. He believed Mash could change the world for the better. Hearing that, Rain supported the principal's view, seeing Mash as trustworthy. Shortly after, Sofina added that even if the principal was right, society might not accept someone who couldn't use magic. At first, the old grandfather agreed to execute Mash because he believed magic was a gift from God. However, realizing Mash had saved his life, he asked to delay the punishment and accepted whatever consequences came his way. Order, upon hearing this, somewhat agreed with them. But he suggested a compromise that Mash would only act under their supervision as a pawn to fight Innocent Zero. Mash would need to prove himself by becoming a candidate for Holy Visionary of the Year. However, if he failed, he would face immediate execution. At that time, Mash realized he needed to do more than just fulfill the principal's wishes to be accepted. He believed he had to prove himself by defeating Innocent Zero. Soon after, Mash shared the situation with his friends. Then was surprised Mash had to face Innocent Zero to be accepted. Then, Dot invited them to play together. Soon after, they met as planned, and Finn wondered about their costumes. Dot arrived in armor because he saw playing as fighting. Mash was there too, wearing training clothes. Not long after, Lance's arrival brought relief to Finn because he seemed normal. Lance surprised them with a t-shirt featuring his younger sister's picture. As they walked, Dot mentioned a popular game in the area. They got intrigued by Call a Snot, where they had to make a cola sneeze to hit a target. At that moment, Mash wanted to try it, but the snot hit Dot's head and made her bleed. There, Dot sought revenge by aiming at Mash, and the snot stuck to his head. Lance then talked about wanting a new wand, as he heard the Holy Visionary candidate exam was coming up soon. He thought having enough coins would help them pass the exam. Soon after, they reached a shop where an old man greeted them. And then Finn tried releasing his magic energy. One day, a magic wand appeared out of nowhere and started talking. It explained that each person has their own magical energy, and it attracts a wand that matches them perfectly. An old man added that the right wand can make a person's magic stronger. At that time, Lance decided to give it a try and immediately found a wand that suited him. The old man said Lance's wand was strong enough for someone with intermediate magic skills. Then he noticed that Mash seemed hesitant. He asked if Mash didn't want to try. Finn overheard and worried because Mash didn't have any magic powers, so they thought there wouldn't be a wand for him. But then, Mash surprised everyone by wanting to try. He went to the middle of the room and found a stick lying on the floor. The old man explained that the stick had been in his shop for a long time because it was so heavy that no one could lift it. But Mash managed to lift it easily. He decided to keep the stick as his wand. Later, Lemon and her schoolmate joined them, and they all decided to play together. In the afternoon, after they finished playing, Mash told his friends how much he enjoyed their time together, saying he'd never felt that way before. He invited them to play again next time. Then, they counted the gold coins they earned. Mash realized it was time for the selection exam to start. He had already asked Rain for permission to return to his hometown. Meanwhile, Order was discussing something with Margaret and was surprised to hear that someone without magic, like Mash, wanted to become a holy visionary. Soon after, Order asked Margaret to make sure Mash couldn't participate in the exam. But Margaret refused, saying she only cared about excitement. Then, Order reminded Margaret that Mash managed to defeat Abel without any magic power. Elsewhere, Mash's grandfather was happy to see Mash return safely with his friends. When Mash arrived, his grandfather was surprised to see that Mash had made many friends. Mash explained that he not only made friends but also had competitors like Finn and Lemon. Lemon even joked to his grandfather that she was Mash's future wife. Hearing this, his grandfather was shocked because he didn't know Mash had a fiancée. Dot gave Mash's grandfather a gift of herbal tea, while Lance gave a souvenir of a shirt with a picture of his little sister. Soon after, the four of them were seen running around aimlessly. That Mash's grandfather told Finn that he must have had a tough time managing them all. He mentioned that in the past he couldn't take Mash out into the world, and now he's surprised to see Mash surrounded by good friends. He hopes this friendship lasts forever. Meanwhile, Margaret and her two colleagues wanted to meet Mash because they were intrigued by how Mash defeated Ebel without any magic power. However, they were suddenly attacked by Rain Ames using sword magic from above. This made Margaret realize that Rain was now Mash's guard. Despite this, Rain claimed he was just passing by. Then, while the four of them were engrossed in playing Monopoly, they were unaware of what was happening outside. It's important to note that at Easton Magic Academy, each house is led by a leader who has special powers and the potential to become a holy visionary. Years ago, there was a tournament for students aged 13 to 15. In that tournament, a remarkable magic user defeated all opponents single-handedly. That magic user was Margaret Macaron, who was only 9 years old at the time. Now Margaret is the leader of Orchid Dormitory. Currently, Margaret is meeting with Rain and is surprised to learn that he will be facing a holy visionary. Suddenly, Margaret uses her magic to summon a piano and starts playing it in front of Rain. At that moment, Rain is taken aback by Margaret's sudden piano performance and feels confused about the situation. Margaret then tells Rain that not all powerful magic users aspire to become holy visionaries. He uses himself as an example, stating that he's not interested in pursuing that path. Then he challenges Rain to determine who is stronger between the two of them. Soon after, Rain attacked Margaret with his sword magic, but Margaret managed to block it using his music magic, creating an explosion between their attacks. Meanwhile, the five of them were engrossed in playing Monopoly. Dot rolled the dice and got the number 67. It was predicted that he would easily fall for beauty magic and lose 5 million. There, Lemon rolled the dice and got the number 25. The prediction was that she would be caught up in her desires and end up behaving like a stalker. After that, Lance was about to roll the dice but warned them about the game's dangerous ability to predict the future. He then predicted that his younger sister would bring her boyfriend home. Shortly after, Finn rolled the dice, and the prediction was that he would return a lost item to the police and receive a reward. Finally, Mash rolled the dice and got the number 98. The prediction was that he would be discovered as unable to use magic and would soon face execution. At that time, they felt irritated by the predictions from the Monopoly game. Finn, who noticed their frustration, remembered what his grandfather Mash said about not expecting Mash to have such good friends and hoping that these moments would last forever. Then, Rain attacked Margaret once more with his sword magic, but Margaret blocked it again with her music magic. Suddenly, Margaret used his voice magic to confine Rain and warned him not to attack, as her music magic would automatically explode if he tried to cast a spell. Margaret seemed annoyed with Rain for interfering in other people's affairs and urged him to leave quickly because Margaret wanted to meet Mash right away. Suddenly, Rain told Margaret something surprising, that Mash had once confided in him that he would become a holy visionary without needing to use magic. At that time, Rain expressed his intention to alter their perspective on the world, leaving Margaret taken aback by his change in attitude. Meanwhile, Neri expressed concern to the principal about Rain possibly getting hurt in the fight against Margaret. However, the principal simply laughed and asked about the magic signs. There, the principal explained that the number of marks on a person's body increases with the strength of their magic. He mentioned that only a few people have 3 lines, and those with 2 lines are chosen by magic due to their talent, while those with 3 lines are chosen directly by God. He pointed out Rain Ames as the youngest person to earn her 3rd stripe. Encouraged by Rain's support, Mash felt a pang of sadness upon hearing the prediction, but decided to step out for some fresh air. In reality, he just wanted to avoid getting caught because he was craving his special eclairs. While outside, Mash accidentally stumbled upon a fight between Rain and Margaret. Margaret was surprised to discover that Rain, someone their age, possessed triple-line magic. Despite this, Margaret remained confident that his musical magic could overcome Rain's abilities. There, Rain suspected that Margaret might have been sent by order, as it seemed strange for someone like Margaret, who wasn't interested in academy matters, to seek out Mash. He believed it was orders doing. Then, Rain acknowledged the harsh reality that in this world, someone who couldn't use magic might not be seen as fully human and could feel hopeless. However, he saw Mash differently, recognizing that Mash had challenged his fate. At that time, Margaret and his partner were confident in Margaret's victory, citing their collection of 10 gold coins from seniors the previous year, and their belief that his voice magic would explode if Rain cast a spell. They believed this was Margaret's strong suit. Suddenly, Margaret launched an attack on Rain with his orchestral magic, seemingly trying to provoke Rain into casting a spell. On another note, Nuri approached the principal to understand the difference in power between a third-line magic user and a second-line magic user. The principal explained that a third-line magic user could generate more magic energy compared to a second-line magic user. Furthermore, third-line magic users have the unique ability to restore the original form of a dormant magic wand. During the confrontation, Rain effortlessly repelled Margaret's magic attack, surprising her. Margaret was shocked because her voice magic was repelled even before it could explode. The principal explained that the true power of a third-line magic user was the ability to channel the power of God into their wand. Suddenly, Rain's wand transformed, revealing the reason behind his nickname, the Sword Stick. Rain then launched a magic attack against Margaret, who attempted to defend himself with voice protection magic. However, Rain's attack caused significant damage. Finally, Mash approached Rain and thanked him for intervening. Rain brushed it off, likening it to dealing with a bully rabbit. He then encouraged Mash, reminding him that his selection exam was approaching and that he would face challenges he hadn't seen before. He urged Mash to emerge victorious. But then, Margaret appeared unharmed after Rain's attack, but his two friends were injured. There, Margaret decided to carry them, realizing he could use his level 2 spells against Rain, but prioritized the safety of his friends. Despite their apologies, Margaret reassured them, saving his strength for future critical situations. Meanwhile, Finn counted his 3 gold coins, given by Mash to the selection exam. Finn felt uncertain about taking the exam. At night, Dot struggled to sleep, feeling too excited about the upcoming exam. On the other hand, Mash's grandfather learned that everyone knew Mash couldn't use magic, putting him at risk of execution if he failed to meet their demands. Soon after, Mash's grandfather apologized because he was feeling responsible for the situation. Mash expressed gratitude for him and the chance to attend school, even briefly. He also appreciated his many friends and his grandfather's support. The next day, it was known that becoming a holy visionary involves 3 stages. First, you need to collect coins. Then, you take the Holy Visionary Candidate exam. Finally, there's the Holy Visionary Selection exam. To advance to the second stage, you must gather over 5 gold coins. However, Innocent Zero's interference causes the exam to start earlier than expected, and everyone enters the arena. At that time, the principal notices Margaret taking the exam and realizes that Mash will face a tough opponent. Soon after, Mash heads towards the arena, but gets stopped by Order. Their order claims Mash will never be recognized by the world, but Mash flexes his muscles and challenges Order's statement. At that moment, Mash declares he'll fight with all his might. As he enters the arena, the commentator introduces him as Mash Bernadette. The students quickly realize Mash can't use magic and demand he leave. At the same time, Finn and Dot hear the commotion and are upset. They argue that Mash should stay since he earned more than 5 gold coins. Upon hearing that, Finn noticed that Mash seemed really down and felt he needed to cheer him up. It was true that Mash looked quite depressed. Soon after, the participants, representing the 3 houses, were informed by the commentator about a challenging qualifying test called the Devil Hunt. They had to find a key hidden inside a balloon and use magic to inflate it. At first, Finn felt relieved, thinking the test wasn't too difficult. But then the commentator dropped a bombshell that 3 demons would chase them throughout the test. Finn looked terrified upon hearing this. The qualifying round was about to start, and the commentator explained that passing this test was crucial to proceed to the main exam. A live streaming mirror would prevent cheating by displaying everything to the audience. Soon after, the participants entered the exam venue, and one of them immediately encountered a guardian demon. He tried to attack the demon with magic, but it didn't work. Then, the commentator pointed out that the guardian demon was immune to magic, and getting hit by its attacks meant losing. Suddenly, one participant dropped out, leaving only 11 remaining. On the other hand, Dot realized he just needed to avoid the guardian demon and search for the key. Lance admitted he had no idea where the key might be. Then, another participant realized that the test required them to use their magic to evade the guardian demon. At that time, the commentators explained that guardian demons couldn't be defeated with magic, so the test was all about how well the participants could escape tricky situations. Spectators felt disappointed seeing some participants leave early, thinking this year's potential sacred visionary candidates were weaker than before. Soon after, Mash encountered a guardian demon and immediately attacked it. The audience was shocked because Mash managed to knock down the demon with just one hit. Other participants were amazed too, as they thought the demon couldn't be defeated. However, the demon soon recovered from its injuries. At that time, Mash decided to flee, but some participants encouraged him to hide with them instead. After the demon left, one participant explained that the guardian demon had poor eyesight, but was sensitive to sound. He then used his magic to shrink Mash back to his original size, revealing his ability to manipulate object sizes with magic. Mash thanked him for the help, and the participants suggested they team up to make the test easier. Hearing that, Mash agreed right away. Soon after, the participant proposed they follow the demon from behind to find the key's location. Meanwhile, Finn still looks scared, and Dot is still confused about finding the location of the key. On the other hand, Mash and the other participants finally followed the devil secretly. However, suddenly Mash stumbled. Luckily, he could still control his body so he didn't get caught. Soon after, they come to a balloon, and Mash realizes that they just have to blow it until the balloon pops. However, suddenly an alarm sounds and they are chased by the devil. One of the participants explained that popping balloons wasn't easy because the sound could be heard by the devil. They decide to tear the balloon off the top. Mash then attacks the balloon from above, making a sound, and is chased by the devil. They realize they have to pop the balloons with magic, but are confused about which magic to use. Shortly after, Mash saw the hole in the balloon blower and got an idea. At that time, other contestants use magic to inflate balloons, while Mash opens his cloak and uses his special ability to create a huge wind. Soon after, the balloon pops and releases the key. Then, they manage to get the key, but are chased back by the demon due to the sound of the explosion. Somewhere else, Lance uses his gravity magic to blow up a balloon and retrieve the key. Dot also succeeds, and Margaret, along with other participants, manages to get the key too. Dot asks Finn if he's okay and that he has the keys. Meanwhile, Max and Mash successfully obtain the key, but Mash kindly offers the key to Max. However, Max refuses, insisting that the key belongs to Mash and shares instructions to escape, revealing that he wants to assist Mash after hearing Rainane's story. Mash thanks Max, but suddenly, they are attacked by someone. It's Carpaccio from the Orchid dormitory. Soon after, Mash rushes to the scene and finds Dot badly injured, who reveals that he helped Finn retrieve the key. Shortly after, Lance joins them and is surprised when Mash explains how he popped the balloon without using magic, thanks to someone's help. Max arrives with injuries, followed by Carpaccio, who steps on Max's head and insults him for being weak. There, Mash warns Carpaccio that if he continues to bully Max, he'll stand up to him. At that moment, Finn notices that Carpaccio is one of the top students this year, along with Lance. Then a woman offers Carpaccio a drink, but Mash hands him cereal and pours the drink instead. There, Finn watches in surprise as Mash almost splashes him with a protein drink made with water. Mash overhears Carpaccio calling people weak and defends them, saying strength means different things to different people. Then, they stare each other down until the commentator interrupts, telling them to save their energy for the next test. Without much delay, the commentator immediately started the next test. At that time, the 9 participants who passed were then split into 3 teams with 3 members each. The upcoming challenge is called the Crystal of Life, where teams will battle each other. Each team member's goal is to destroy the opponent's crystal. If all the crystals on a team are destroyed, they will be kicked out of the test. But thereafter Mash hears the rules of the exam, he feels confused. Dot complains that the explanation is too complicated, making it hard for their captain to understand. The commentator clarifies that they simply need to destroy each other's crystals. Then realizes he's on a different team and wonders if he should fight against his friends. Soon after, they're given crystals and instructed to guard them carefully because they're delicate. However, Mash accidentally drops his and so does Dot. Also, Finn feels frustrated because his crystal is the only one still intact. They reassure Finn that they'll keep a close eye on the crystal. Shortly after, the commentator announced that the exam had started, and they were taken to a different place. Finn feels upset about being split up for a team battle. Meanwhile, in another part of the world, there are 13 ancient magic wands called Master Ken, and only those with exceptional talent can wield them. At that time, Mash worries because they're separated from Finn and tries to find him. Dot also wants to locate Finn. On the other hand, Lance notices that their friends are in trouble, and Finn is determined to protect his crystal. There, Finn witnesses Carpaccio hurting a student and destroying their crystal. He realizes Carpaccio is more dangerous than he thought and fears for his safety. After Carpaccio leaves, Finn decides to hide instead of running away. However, Carpaccio returns, and Finn feels the need to conceal his location. But Carpaccio finds him and asks what he's up to. Carpaccio reveals himself and recognizes Finn as Finn Ames, a student who barely graduated from Easton Academy. Shortly after, Carpaccio pointed out that he was questioning how someone like Finn, who he believed lacked talent, could attend Easton Academy and take the Holy Visionary Candidate exam. He suspected Finn might have been admitted due to his older brother's influence and demanded Finn hand over the crystal, because he thought Finn wasn't worthy of it. Finn realizes that the crystal holds Mash's future and decides to protect it. Suddenly, Finn feels hurt and confused, and Carpaccio accuses him of being weak and pretending to be strong. He urges Finn to give up the crystal to avoid further pain. Meanwhile, Margaret notices 3 participants who stand out: Mash, who can use magic, Lance, the top transfer student, and Carpaccio, the best troublemaker. Despite Carpaccio being chosen by an ancient magic wand and considered highly talented, Margaret feels he lacks maturity. At that moment, Finn looks trapped, but he refuses to give up. He knows protecting his crystal is crucial for Mash's future. Seeing an opportunity to use magic, he tries to cast a spell with his wand, but nothing happens. Soon after, Finn starts running, with Carpaccio chasing him. Suddenly, Finn casts another spell, and Carpaccio finds himself back where he was destroying the crystal of a third-year student in the Orchid dormitory. At that time, Carpaccio realizes Finn used teleportation magic when he wasn't paying attention. There, Finn manages to get some distance from Carpaccio, but he injures his leg again and falls. Carpaccio catches up, stepping on Finn's foot, and demands the crystal. He repeatedly stabs Finn, shocking the audience watching the live stream as Carpaccio seems to transfer the damage to his opponent. Despite the pain, Finn refuses to surrender, determined not to abandon his friend. He tries to fight back with magic, but Carpaccio stabs him in the chest, daring him to harm himself. The audience feels distressed seeing Finn suffer, but he doesn't give up. Finally, Mash arrives, hitting Carpaccio and reassuring Finn that his efforts to protect the crystal weren't in vain, because Mash is there to help him. At that moment, Mash thanks Finn, even though he's injured too. Carpaccio reveals that his cane can absorb his pain, then Mash kicks him. But Carpaccio's magic makes Mash's attacks bounce back at him. In that moment, the principal notices Carpaccio's skill with his cane. But then, Carpaccio claims that someone like Mash can't hurt him. Then he attacks Mash multiple times, leaving him wounded. Mash tries to fight back, but his attacks don't work. Shortly after, Carpaccio says a person's destiny depends on their inherent strength, comparing Mash to Finn, who is often seen as a loser. Hearing that, Mash agrees, saying Finn has faced his fears and fought against stronger opponents. But there, he won't forgive Carpaccio for mocking Finn. At that time, Mash uses all his strength to keep hitting Carpaccio. Carpaccio realizes Mash's constant attacks are aimed at preventing him from recovering, but he insists it's futile. However, he's shocked when cracks start appearing on the goddess statue behind him, showing that its power has limits. Soon after, Mash grabs Carpaccio's chin until the goddess statue shatters. He claims he's much stronger than Carpaccio and questions if Carpaccio can still keep up like Finn. Carpaccio realizes it's the first time someone has damaged his goddess statue and is pleased that it'll become more defensive with each attack. The statue showers Mash with syringes, but he dodges them. Shortly after, Mash takes out his iron stick and transforms it into a tennis racket, attacking the goddess statue with iron tennis balls while dodging the syringes. The statue's face starts to crack. There, Mash keeps attacking until he destroys the statue. After Carpaccio expresses a desire for pain, Mash hits him on the head with the racket, leaving him bleeding. The spectators are surprised to see Carpaccio, a talented student with an ancient magic wand, defeated by Mash, a simple tennis player. Mash then thanks Finn and admits it's all his fault for being careless and bothering others. Seeing himself bleeding, Carpaccio realizes it's the worst pain he's ever felt. He also recognizes that Finn endured this kind of pain for others' sake. Carpaccio acknowledges he couldn't stand up like Finn did in their fight, finally admitting defeat. Meanwhile, in the qualifying round for the Holy Visionary candidate exam, Margaret faces two enemies. He senses their abilities match Doremi's tone and asks them to hand over their crystals and leave. Suddenly, the enemies attack Margaret while summoning a giant wolf. They realize Margaret's power is nearly on par with the Holy Visionaries, but they refuse to give up as they've fought hard to get there. Soon after, Margaret fights back with his voice magic, and they counter with a stone wall. They're surprised by his strength and are eventually knocked away by his attack. Margaret then crushes their crystals with his hands. Suddenly, the commentator stops the test because one team got knocked out. Dot is surprised by the sudden end of the exam. Shortly after, they head back to the arena, where Dot jokes with Mash during an interview, but Mash just wants to eat eclairs. The principal realizes that Mash's toughest challenge is yet to come. Then, Margaret tells Mash he's excited for their upcoming fight. Suddenly, Mash feels pain in his chest, and Finn asks him about it. Mash explains that his pecs, named Mike, warned him about Margaret. On the other hand, Caldo informs the principal that Mash might struggle against Margaret, and he explains why Rain Ames became the Holy Visionary last year. Back when Margaret was in second grade, they didn't participate in the Holy Visionary candidate exam. As the head of the Magic Talent Administration, the principal always keeps a close eye on the candidates. He's confident Margaret will pass this year because he saw Margaret brutally finish the exam last year, and now Margaret is even stronger. Caldo notices the principal supporting Mash, but doesn't understand why everyone admires Mash so much. For Caldo, Margaret is more deserving of being a Holy Visionary, and he doubts if Mash can defeat Margaret. Meanwhile, a first-year student holds a grudge against Mash and asks Margaret for help in getting back at Mash, even suggesting sabotaging Mash's food with laxatives. But then, Margaret swiftly shuts down the first-year student with his voice magic and tells him not to ruin his happiness. He also warns Order, who's nearby, not to interrupt him. There, Order assures Margaret he won't disturb him as long as Margaret follows his orders. The first-year student is surprised to see Margaret fearless in front of a Holy Visionary. Meanwhile, Mash was wondering about why he trained so hard. At first, it was because his grandfather pushed him, and it felt exhausting and irritating. But now, he believes his hard work has made him strong. Finn watches Mash's behavior, surprised that no one prompted him, but Mash continues talking to himself. As Mash pours his protein drink, Caldo approaches. Caldo, who recently denied the existence of Holy Visionaries, surprises Finn. There, Caldo explains he's interested in them and invites Mash to play a game. Initially, Mash declines because he wants to rest. But when Caldo reveals he's the head of the Magic Talent Administration and that Mash's training could affect his chances of becoming a Holy Visionary, Mash agrees. Caldo explains that if Mash wins, he'll pass the test no matter what. The game is simple that Mash loses if he looks away. At that time, they play 3 rounds. Caldo points up and starts counting. Mash looks down in the opposite direction. Then Caldo points left and right. But Mash blocks the attack with his hands while still looking down. Caldo then draws his sword, covered in flames, saying Mash can't defend against it. Upon seeing that, Finn urges Mash to stop because it's dangerous. Suddenly, Caldo throws his sword at Mash from different angles, but Mash dodges each attack. Caldo keeps coming at Mash, who quickly ducks. As Mash looks down, Caldo prepares to attack from below, but Mash jumps away. Then an owl swoops down, snatching an eclair from Mash's pocket and distracting him. Mash accidentally looks to the right and feels defeated. There, Caldo says the incident doesn't count and declares it a draw. He suggests Mash might struggle against Margaret. Mash feels puzzled. Finn asks what happened, and Mash worries Caldo might strike again. Mash realizes Caldo didn't use magic during the attack. Soon after, Caldo walks away, pondering why Mash is so determined to become a Holy Visionary. After a while, the final test is about to start. It was a one-on-one battle with simple rules that a participant wins by knocking out or incapacitating their opponent. The commentator announces the first fight between Mash and Margaret. Finn silently cheers for Mash, thinking about his future. The principal acknowledges Margaret's rare talents and knows he'll be a tough opponent for Mash. Soon after, the commentator was ready to start the fight, but Mash asked for a moment to eat his favorite eclairs. Margaret joined in, but Mash jokingly reminded him they weren't fried shrimp. Hearing that, Margaret gets annoyed, and Mash realizes Margaret's a strong opponent. Then Caldo explains that Order chose Margaret to defeat Mash because he believes in her abilities. Shortly after, Margaret emits his magical energy, impressing the audience but making Finn feel queasy. At that time, Mash tries to attack Margaret, but he repels Mash into a wall with a magic ball. Mash disappears and surprises Margaret with an attack from behind, but Margaret is unfazed, saying the fight has just begun. The anime ends. The moral lesson from this anime is never underestimate the power of an eclair distraction. In life's battles, even the silliest moments can turn the tide. So keep your snacks close and your enemies closer.